Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast. I'm Simon Marks, live from Washington, D.C. And these are the headlines of this hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends the second India-Nordic summit in Denmark. Talks focus on post-pandemic economic recovery, climate change and the evolving global security scenario.
Very deep cooperation, very deep bilateral cooperation. We have many Swedish companies that employ lots of people in India. They think India is a fantastic country and
Sweden's Prime Minister Eva Andersson speaks to WION's diplomatic correspondent Sidant Sibal and says Sweden wants deeper ties with India and wants to cooperate in India's green transition. The US Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts orders a probe into a leaked abortion draft opinion. He called the leak an egregious breach of trust, but confirmed the document's authenticity. In a surprise move, India's central bank hiked key lending rates, citing inflation and geopolitical tensions. Rates have been raised for the first time since May of 2020. And residents of Shanghai turned to blockchain to preserve their memories of COVID-19 lockdown. They're minting videos, photos and artworks capturing their ordeal. We begin this Wednesday with events that have once again revealed the depths of political and social division within the United States. It's a new day here as Democrats, Republicans and their respective supporters navigate the fallout from the Supreme Court leak. A draft opinion suggesting the court is on the verge of overturning the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade decision on abortion. Senate Democrats say they will try to hold a vote as early as next week in what many believe will be a futile effort to write abortion rights into federal law. President Biden urged Congress to provide abortion with federal legal protection for the first time, and reports suggested that the White House has been preparing for such a move for months.
If the rationale of the decision as released were to be sustained, a whole range of rights are in question, a whole range of rights. And the idea we're letting the states make those decisions, localities make those decisions, would be a fundamental shift in what we've done. So it goes far beyond, in my view, if it becomes a law and if what is written is what remains. It goes far beyond the concern of whether or not there is the right to choose. It goes to other basic rights, the right to marry.
Meanwhile, Republicans are considering the role abortion will play in their midterm poll messaging. If Roe v. Wade is struck down, it will energize many grassroots Republican supporters in the South, but it could add to the party's challenges winning the votes of suburban women, particularly in many northern states. And they are considered key to success for either party this November. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, decried the leaked Supreme Court draft and vowed legislative action to protect women's rights.
It is hard not to feel angry, troubled, and deeply disturbed about what overturning Roe would do to women across America. It is our intention for the Senate to hold a vote on legislation to codify the right to an abortion in law. Second, a vote on this legislation is no longer an abstract exercise. This is as urgent and as real as it gets. We will vote to protect a woman's right to choose, and every American is going to see which side every senator stands on.
But it's the leak that has focused considerable attention and speculation here. It is an extraordinary breach of the Supreme Court's norms of confidentiality. And while it's not unprecedented, it is a threat to the legitimacy and integrity of the judicial branch of the American government. The initial shock of the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion about abortion has sparked both uproar and debate. Some Americans have begun reflecting on how their own lives might change after the law gets overturned. Many took to the streets to express their fury at the Supreme Court. Right here in Washington, D.C., pro- and anti-abortion protesters faced off with chants, prayers and signs outside the U.S. Supreme Court. Demonstrators grew from dozens of people to hundreds, voicing a mix of support for and against the apparent Supreme Court decision to strip abortion of constitutional protections that have kept the procedure legal from coast to coast for half a century.
What do we do? Stand up, fight back! Life is a lie! You don't care if people die! Pro-life is a lie! You don't care if people die!
US Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, a left-wing progressive within the Democratic Party on Capitol Hill, also joined hundreds of protesters outside the Supreme Court, and she labelled its Republican-appointed justices extremists.
My name is Elizabeth Warren, and I'm madder than hell. I'm madder than hell because an extremist United States Supreme Court, 5 people, think that they can dictate to tens of millions of women across this country the decisions that are our decisions about our lives. They think that they are wrong.
In Washington state, on America's west coast, politicians and dozens of demonstrators gathered at Kerry Park in Seattle to express their opposition to the apparent planned move. Governor Jay Inslee said Washington is a pro-choice state and that they will fight to keep things that way.
We're going to fight like hell to keep Washington a pro-choice state.
Sure that Seattle, we won't back down. We won't get turned around. You can back us up to the gates of hell, and we will not back down.
This radical majority of the Supreme Court has no respect for precedent, no respect for women and the freedoms that now 2 generations of people have grown up believing are settled law. Then let's be clear that we can't trust the Supreme Court on any decision we thought was settled.
In New York, crowds came out to protest at a rally held in Lower Manhattan, and there were similar demonstrations nationwide. New Yorkers expressed support for abortion rights, chanting, "We won't go back" and "My body, my choice." And in California, on the West Coast, activists and lawmakers said they were shocked by the court's draft opinion. Leaders and activists pledged to make California a sanctuary for reproductive rights. State legislative leaders have endorsed 13 bills to try and achieve that. Governor Gavin Newsom and top legislative leaders committed to putting an amendment on the November ballot in the state that would enshrine the right to choose in California.
Give your employees the day off so they can come do what they need to be doing.
I believe that California has a tremendous responsibility right now to say that we are a state where you are safe and open and able to get access to the medical procedures you need. We need to fund that ability. It's not enough just to say we're open. We know that this is going to devastate low-income communities, women, trans men.
Abortion is a charged issue for President Joe Biden, a politician who has witnessed up close the changing politics of abortion over the half-century span of his political career. But now, suddenly, abortion rights are central to his administration's hopes of retaining control of Congress in this November's midterm elections. WION's US correspondent Susan Tehrani has this report on Joe Biden's past stance on abortion and the deep divisions of American society.
The revelation that the U.S. Supreme Court will likely overturn Roe v. Wade immediately put one of the most polarizing issues of American life at the forefront of the national political debate. And now abortion rights will undoubtedly reshape the dynamics of the upcoming midterm elections.
These rights are here to stay. Not if Alito has his hope. Roe v. Wade has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Roe v. Wade has got to go. Hey, ho, ho. Hey, hey. Abortion rights.
Over the last 40 years, abortion has frequently taken center stage in American politics for voters and political hopefuls alike. In 1982, then-Senator Joe Biden voted to let states overturn Roe v. Wade. A practicing Catholic, he said at the time, quote, "I'm probably a victim or a product, however you want to phrase it, of my background." The bill never made it to the full Senate, but when it came back up the following year, he voted against it. Flip-flop over abortion would become a hallmark of his political career. However, with this leak, although not final, Democrats have embraced the opportunity to force an issue they believe is a political winner for them come November. Here's President Biden on Tuesday.
It concerns me a great deal that we're going to, after 50 years, decide a woman does not have a right to choose within the limits of the Supreme Court decision in cases.
President Biden also took the opportunity in a statement earlier to remind voters that the draft underscores the need to elect more pro-abortion rights senators and keep the House majority in order to pass legislation codifying Roe, which he said he would sign into law. However, many Republicans have welcomed the prospect of Roe being overturned, and for socially conservative Americans, the news will likely help mobilize more voters to the polls, many who identify as pro-family and pro-life. A variety of polls have found strong opposition to the prospect of the Supreme Court overturning Roe, but also that views of abortion are complex, with the nation divided on whether abortion is morally acceptable. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION, World is One.
Celebrities, too, have had a lot to say about the abortion issue, and most are calling the court's apparent plan shameful. Leading the pack in Hollywood, actress Reese Witherspoon, the star of Legally Blonde, wrote, "Hey, SCOTUS, let Roe v. Wade stand. You did it in 1992. Stare decisis." That's the Latin legal term for "this has been decided." This year's Oscar co-host Amy Schumer attended a Planned Parenthood protest in New York City and encouraged others to do so by writing "to the streets." Later on, she also posted pictures from the protest with the caption, "Bans off our bodies." From one former Oscar host to another, on an episode of the TV talk show The View, host Whoopi Goldberg gave a fiery speech calling abortion a human issue as opposed to a religious issue. Goldberg had earlier written about her own self-managed abortion at the age of 14. Singer-songwriter Phoebe Bridgers also revealed that she had an abortion, writing, "It was easy. Everyone deserves that kind of access." 76-year-old star Bette Midler was among those who slammed the Supreme Court, writing, "SCOTUS has just revealed itself to be another political tool." Numerous male stars also weighed in to support a woman's right to choose. Mark Ruffalo tweeted about the issue, reposting a video from a protest site. Now, there are, of course, millions of Americans who oppose abortion rights and back Republican moves to roll back Roe v. Wade. In the coming days and weeks, we may hear more outrage from celebrities, but there's no indication their tweets and slogans will change any minds among the men and women who matter, the Supreme Court's 6 Republican-appointed justices. Moving on now to Australia. Election month is underway there. Campaigning is well into its 4th week and the race seems to be very close. Prime Minister Scott Morrison is in the battle of his political life to secure re-election, with Labour Party leader Anthony Albanese posing a very strong challenge. The latest decision by the Australian Central Bank created fresh pressure on Scott Morrison. It chose an interesting time to raise interest rates for the first time in a decade, the last thing any incumbent Prime Minister would need. It's less than 3 weeks before polling day, and opposition leaders have jumped at the opportunity to recruit more support. In a practical sense, the rate rise will put extra strain on household budgets across Australia. Some people in Sydney are already thinking about changing their votes.
Of course it's going to affect my vote. I mean, it's a cost of living thing. If they are really good economic managers, then surely they would have planned for this a bit more and made it a bit easier for us.
Look, I think it will be difficult for people with those really, really high mortgages. I mean, people have gone into debt up to their ears. So it's going to be really, really tough for people.
Australian inflation is at a 21-year high. A crucial issue because of the cost of living because the cost of living is the top issue in this year's election. Scott Morrison is banking on how Australia's economic recovery from the pandemic can help him. But on the other hand, Anthony Albanese has made a pitch for a better future. Right now, the scale appears to be tilting in the Labour Party's favour. Morrison seems optimistic that the central bank's decision will not impact his voter base. But the last time rates rose during an election campaign was in 2007, and it did have a negative impact on the ruling government, John Howard losing his position as Prime Minister. The election is on the 21st of May. Whoever ends up winning will not only have to fulfil their campaign promises, but also face an anxious population reeling from the rising costs of living. So the battle is going to be uphill either way. Now, in Denmark, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is attending the second India-Nordic summit. He interacted with the Prime Ministers of the Nordic 5, focusing on issues of common interest like post-pandemic recovery, climate change and India-Nordic cooperation in the Arctic. WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal spoke to the Prime Minister of Sweden about what this second edition of the summit means for India-Nordic ties.
With me is the Prime Minister of Sweden. Ma'am, welcome to WION. My first question to you is, how was your conversation with the Indian Prime Minister?
It was a very, very good Prime Minister. I appreciated very much that we had the possibility to have this meeting. And Sweden and India, we have a very deep cooperation, very deep bilateral cooperation. We have many Swedish companies that employ lots of people in India. They think India is a fantastic country, and of course we would like to have an even deeper cooperation, not at least in the area of green transition, because I know it's very hot in India right now, and we see the effects of climate change across the world, and we have to do more. And it's also something that can create jobs.
Ma'am, you talked about environment. How much that has been the focus between India and Sweden?
Of course, that is one of the issues we are discussing, because this is an issue we have to cooperate in the world. This is a global issue. We all have to do our homework in this area, Sweden as well. But it's also something that can create jobs. But of course, there are also other areas where we have a deep cooperation and would like to deepen it further. Many Swedish companies invest in India, want to increase their investments. Many Indians are indirectly or directly employed in Swedish companies.
Ma'am, what's your government stance on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, something that has shocked Europe?
Yes, we have condemned it in the strongest possible wordings. This is an illegal invasion of a peaceful and democratic neighboring country. And I'm also very concerned with the attacks on civilians and the war crimes we see from Russia.
You talked about this conversation, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, with the Indian Prime Minister during your bilateral meeting?
Yes, of course. I mean, we are a neighboring country to Russia, so of course this is something that we brought up.
Ma'am, about your membership for the NATO, what has been the progress so far, and how determined you are to become the member of NATO? What is driving your membership in terms of the political will?
We are right now conducting a review between the government and the parliament in Sweden to analyze this new situation, because we do have a complete new situation when Russia decided to invade a friendly, democratic neighboring country. So we have to rethink what is best for Sweden and Swedish security in this completely new situation.
Ma'am, my final question to you is, while there is worry over the Russian invasion of Ukraine in Europe, in Asia, the worry is over the Chinese aggressiveness, especially in the Indo-Pacific. What's your view about the Chinese action, especially when it comes to India, the line of actual control? We know the situation that evolved in the last 2 years.
Well, let me say this. I mean, Sweden always stands very strongly for the UN Charter and a rules-based international order, and that is the stance we're having in all discussions, conflicts, and in all dialogues we have with other countries.
A number of global equity markets edged higher on Tuesday, while 10-year US Treasury yields slid from their 3% level. Investors are expecting the US Federal Reserve to hike rates to curb inflation.
Stocks ended higher on Tuesday after another choppy session in which all three of the major indexes fluctuated between gains and losses as a key Federal Reserve meeting got underway. The Dow ended up 0.2% and the S&P 500 finished up about 0.5%, while the Nasdaq ended up almost 0.25%. Investors picked up bank and high-growth stocks ahead of Wednesday's expected announcement by the Fed, amid near-universal agreement among analysts that the U.S. Central Bank will raise interest rates by 50 basis points, which would mark its largest rate hike since May 2000. In April, Wall Street was hammered by uncertainty around the Fed's ability to engineer a soft landing for the economy as it tackles inflation, and mega-cap stocks came under pressure from rising rates. Rebecca Felton is Senior Market Strategist at Riverfront Investment Group.
Today, we have a bounce in the markets, maybe somewhat of a relief rally, maybe some oversold conditions. People are expecting a hawkish move out of the Federal Reserve tomorrow, a 50 basis point rate hike. So I think a lot of bad news is already priced into the market, and so folks are starting to dip their toes again.
Western Digital jumped 14.5%, the largest percentage gainer on the S&P 500, after activist investor Elliott Investment Management urged the company to separate its flash business and offered to invest $1 billion to facilitate a sale or spin-off of the business. Shares of Estée Lauder sank almost 6% after the cosmetics maker cut its full-year profit forecast, and Hilton Worldwide slid more than 4% after the hotel operator forecast a bleak full-year profit, as fuel prices and labor costs have pressured profits for the tourism industry.
Finally from me today, a story about hope and love during war. Thousands have been killed in Ukraine, millions displaced, and thousands more injured. Some are left disabled for life. Now, one Ukrainian woman who lost both her legs just a month ago has released an update about her life on social media. We leave you with the visuals from the western Ukrainian city of Lviv. I'm Simon Marks. I'll see you back here again soon for another edition of WION Live Broadcast from Washington. Thanks for watching.
Rozplakałam z tych Oksanów.
Мне абсолютно не хотелось жить. Я просила.
I did not want to live. I didn't want to live such life. I have 2 children. I didn't want them to see me like this. I did not want to be a burden for anyone in my family. But thanks to the support, I accepted it. I need to keep living. It is not the end of life. If God left me alive, that's my destiny.
В таком случае, значит, так суждено.
Возьми, будь ласка, пакетик наш на пров'язку.
Перший весільний танець. Оплески ваші.
This is right, Arab.